Email: The U.S. withdrawal from the UN Human Rights Council leaves ally Australia in an awkward, lonely position by political reporter Stephen Gijiku. PDATED June 20, 2018 13:43 and 12 seconds video. Nikki Haley announces the U.S. is pulling out of the UN Human Rights Council. Pic. Reuters, ABC News. Related sto. Rye, cesspool of political bias. U.S. pulls out of UN Human Rights Council. Related story. Trump threatens to cut aid to UN members over Jerusalem vote. Map. Australia. It was close to midnight in Geneva when Nikki Haley got to her feet in Washington and announced that the United States was pulling out of the United Nations Human Rights Council. If there were any Australian diplomats still up at that hour at the Council's headquarters in Switzerland, they would have been watching with dismay. The announcement from the U.S. ambassador to the UN surprised no one. Their lives are about to become more difficult. Donald Trump's lieutenants have made it clear they hold the council in contempt, accusing it of chronic bias against Israel. Ms. Haley DECL aired that the council's disproportionate focus and unending hostility toward Israel was clear proof that it is motivated by political bias, not by human rights. She also pointed out that many countries with appalling human rights records, including Venezuela, China, and Democratic Republic of Congo, are comfortably ensconced in the council. Photo. Julie Bishop issued a terse statement about the U.S. departure from the council. AAP-UN. Kim H. Otten. Australia actually has plenty of sympathy for both of these arguments, but the federal government maintains that whatever the council's flaws, quitting the field achieves nothing. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop issued a terse statement this morning, making it clear she'd urged her U.S. counterparts to stay, but to no avail. It was our strong preference for the U.S. to remain a member of the UNHRC, and I had made this known to senior members of the Trump administration, she said. The Trump administration's decision to pull up stumps could put our officials in Geneva in an excruciating position. The foreign minister's frustration is understandable, particularly when it comes to Israel. Remaining 46 countries on UN Human Rights Council: Africa, Angola, Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, Togo, Tunisia, Asia Pacific, Australia, China, Japan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, South Korea, Europe, Belgium, Croatia, Georgia, Germany, Hungary, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, Spain, Switzerland, Ukraine, United Kingdom, Latin America, Caribbean, Brazil, Chile, Cuba, Ecuador, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Venezuela, Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. Last month, Australia and the U.S. were the only two countries on the council to vote against an independent investigation into the killing of Palestinians in Gaza. Both argued that the inquiry's terms ignored the role Hamas played in inciting the violence, and like the U.S., Australia believes that the council's preoccupation with Israel is steeped in anti-Semitism. But the debate over Gaza will inevitably flare up again as the council forges ahead with the investigation. But this time, the United States won't be there. There will be more resolutions on Israel and more votes. Photo. Israel faced a backlash after dozens of Palestinians were killed by troops on the border between Gaza and Israel in May. AP. Adele Hanna. U.S. departure leaves Australian diplomats exposed. If Australian diplomats hold the line, we could be the only country on the council voting against further investigations into Israel or opposing resolutions condemning their conduct. What past precedent said about Israel. Donald Trump has reversed decades of U.S. policy on the status of Jerusalem, but you might be surprised that Barack Obama once saw it's similar things. That leaves us terribly exposed in the heart of a bitter and emotionally charged debate about one of the world's most intractable conflicts. Israel's opponents normally focus their fire on the U.S. and Israel itself, but if they're out of the room, then the anger coursing through debate will inevitably be redirected towards us, but we'd rather not find out. The consequences of that are difficult to predict. Our best hope will be to convince some of the 14 countries that abstained on the last vote to join us in the trenches, but that's an uncertain bid at best. Meanwhile, China's influence on the Council grows while the debate over Israel will seize media attention. The Trump administration's deepening isolationism could have more subtle and lasting consequences for the Human Rights Council. China has been quietly working to fundamentally reshape the way the Council approaches human rights. In the last session, it introduced a harmless-sounding motion called Win-Win Cooperation for the Common Cause of Human Rights. It emphasizes dialogue on an equal footing and mutual benefit to encourage multilateral human rights institutions. The language sounds anodyne and unthreatening, but human rights groups warn that China is focusing on dialogue and cooperation because it wants to draw attention away from specific allegations of human rights abuses. Australian officials also believe China's fundamental aim is to make it harder for the Council to investigate what Beijing calls the internal affairs of individual countries. The risk is that the Human Rights Council, already an imperfect body, could be changed entirely. Australia and our allies have been pushing back against this shift in language, but the United States provided the most muscular resistance. America alone means Australia is a little more lonely as well. Now it's gone. Topics: government and politics, world politics, human rights, foreign affairs. Donald Trump, Australia, United States. First posted June 20, 2018, 12:27 and 24 seconds. Contact Stephen Gijic.